Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My uploads are still going to be a little bit slow for the coming 2 weeks because of finals and I'm spending time with my family for the winter holidays, but I'm back today with another video because I just had to share this incredibly strong team for the Ultra League. But before I share the team, I have to address my elo because something happened to it. You see, over the weekend, we took a little trip to a slightly rural location. Here's a picture of a goat. And, well, I didn't have the best internet connection. It's not the whole area that has bad internet, it's just where I was staying, the connection was really, really bad. So where I had last left off, I had reached the mid 2,500 and I hit veteran and we were on leaderboards. And then during my travels, I thought I'd try a couple sets of Go Battle League. Bad idea. I lost a bunch of games after my internet kept cutting out, and any sane person would stop playing after they realized that the connection is bad, right? Well, I didn't. I kept going because I'm addicted to the game, and I was like, maybe the connection will be better in the next game. And so I kept losing until my elo skyrocketed in the negative direction and all the way to the 2130s. Anyways, I got back home a couple days ago, conquered a couple final projects for my university, and then I rewarded myself with some Go Battle League. And yesterday I did really, really well and managed to salvage my elo a bit. But today's games were really nice, so I decided I had to share the team with you guys. The team is going to be Shadow Dragonite on the lead, with Poliwrath and Jellicent usually on the safe swap. Now I'm aware that the team is really weak to fairy types. It is ABA weak to fairy and especially weak to Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing will absolutely destroy this team, especially if it's running Play Rough. However, usually with a Galarian Weezing lead, what I'll do is I'll swap my Jellicent into it and then I'll try to play it out, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you're not going to see a lot of fairy types. I noticed that there aren't that many fairy types, probably because Tentacruel is very strong at the moment and Tentacruel is everywhere. So I think not a lot of people are going to be running the fairies. And if you do see them, swap Jelly and pray. I know that's not advice you want to hear, but it is what it is. The team works really well, actually. The way I like to play this out is I'll usually try to win lead with the Dragonite, and then I'll try to have alignment with my back two Pokemon. Hopefully, whatever they bring in next, one of your back two Pokemon will be able to answer. But that's enough from me. Let's get into these battles. I have some really good ones for you guys today. Up first, we are going to be seeing a Giratina into our Shadow Dragonite. This is a good lead for us. However, the Giratina is going to be outpacing us to the Dragonclaws. But in this instance, my opponent does go for that Ancient Power. Ancient Power is going to be more energy than Dragonclaw. So interesting choice for my opponent, but I guess maybe they're running Shadow Sneak and Ancient Power. Definitely an interesting moveset. And they let the Dragonclaw go from our Dragonite, so we're able to take them out, and then they bring in Sandslash. Now I'm not going to stay in the matchup with my Dragonite. I immediately swap into my Jellicent to potentially draw out a water counter, like a potential grass type in the back, but it looks like they don't have one. And here I'm actually reading that they might have Poliwrath in the back because they're staying in with this Sandslash. And I am correct, it is Poliwrath, but my Dragonite is still healthy and I have a shield for it to shield an Icy Wind. So I'm just going to get this Poliwrath into a range where I can take it out with my own Poliwrath. At this point, there's not much my opponent can do because usually when you have a Poliwrath mirror match left, the Poliwrath with the most health wins, and because I was able to take out most of their health with my own Dragonite, I'm going to be able to take this match and take out the Alolan Sandslash. GG's to our opponent. On to the next match, we are going to see a Cobalion on the lead. Now, this isn't a great lead. I have two answers to Cobalion in the back, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up to the superpower and then throw it, and then I attempt to catch a Stone Edge on my Jellicent, but it doesn't work out. We are able to draw out a Chestnut, however. This is the grass type that we want to see. But unfortunately, because that Frenzy Plant did not KO my Jellicent, they are going to be able to leave that matchup with a ton of energy on this Chestnut. Now they have so much energy on their Cobalion, and they have a lot of energy on the Chestnut. Now hopefully it can't reach a second superpower. We had to take one on Dragonite, and it hurt because of how squishy Dragonite is, and they bring in Cobalion and immediately throw the Sacred Sword. Luckily, we live it and we're able to throw a superpower and take their final shield. Now, keep in mind, this Cobalion has so much energy because we failed a catch on Jellicent. So it is going to be able to throw 3 Sacred Swords here, and I needed health on Poliwrath because my opponent has a Giratina in the back. If I had a healthy Poliwrath, I would have been able to take this win, but unfortunately, I can't handle this Giratina with a low health Poliwrath. So we're going to take a loss here. GG's to my opponent. But moving on to the next game, we are going to see a Greedent on the lead. This is a little bit tricky because of how spammy Greedent is, and the body slams are going to be hurting our squishy Shadow Dragonite. I'm going to let the first body slam go, and then I am going to build up to the superpower and then bait with a Dragon Claw. My opponent shields. Now I did learn from a previous set that I played with this game that usually the Greedents are inclined to shield the first move because they think it's going to be a superpower. I end up taking both of my opponent's shields here, so I decided to double shield my Dragonite as well, and here I actually attempted to catch this body slam on my Jellicent, but it didn't work out. The game didn't let me swap for some reason. I tapped the Jellicent, but it's okay because my opponent's backline is actually going to be really weak to Jellicent. I'm actually glad that the game didn't let me swap out. I actually should have read that because my opponent led with Greedent, that would be their main answer to Jellicent, and then maybe the backline would be weak to it and they would attempt to draw out Jelly with one of their back Pokemon, but they didn't do that in this case. And also, I could have saved the second shield that I used on my Dragonite. I did not need to shield it. I could have just brought in Poliwrath and then farmed down the Greedent, had a ton of energy for their backline, and had a shield. But in this case, I'm still going to be fine. It looks like my opponent is going to have a Giratina in the back. I'm going to be able to reach 2 Shadow Balls against the Giratina, but because we are debuffed, we were debuffed by the Icy Winds from the Poliwrath, we are unfortunately not going to be able to take them out with the 2 Shadow Balls. Usually 2 Shadow Balls is more than enough to KO a Giratina. We're able to bring in the Poliwrath, however, take it out with an Icy Wind, and then take out their Poliwrath with a Scald. GG's to our opponent. On to the next game, we are going to see a Nidoqueen lead. Now, I am expecting my opponent to have a Jellicent answer in the back. However, my opponent save swaps Poliwrath. So they are ABA weak to Jellicent. I am going to go ahead and catch the Icy Wind on my Jellicent. I wanted to get as much energy as I could on my Dragonite before swapping out. And we managed to do that successfully. Going to bring in Jellicent and just go for these Shadow Balls. Unfortunately, they are going to be debuffing us. Now, my opponent is going to go ahead and throw another move here, and then their switch timer is up, and they managed to catch a Surf on their Greninja, but our switch timer is also up, and I'm able to swap into my Poliwrath against Greninja, and Poliwrath absolutely walls it, and my opponent then decides to quit. Now, they had a chance there if they had stayed in with the Nidoqueen against our Dragonite, tried to win the lead, and then maybe I would have brought in Jellicent, and then their Greninja would have been aligned to our Jellicent. They would have had a chance there to win that match. But moving on to the next game, we are going to see a Jellicent on the lead. Now, I want to try to win the lead here, so I'm going to go for a Dragon Claw, but my opponent shields, and I tried here to call a Surf. Unfortunately, it was a Shadow Ball. We called that incorrectly, but earlier I was able to call a Surf correctly. That's why I didn't shield there. But that's okay, we bring in our own Jellicent, and my opponent doesn't let me take them out. Unfortunately, they saved their Jellicent in the back. It has very little HP, so if I have to take it out with the Poliwrath, I can. They bring in a Scrafty, and we're going to be able to align our Poliwrath to their Scrafty, take them out, and then my opponent brings back in the Jellicent here, as expected. I'm going to go for a Scald, and that should put them in counter down range, but my opponent swaps out into Pidgeot. I'm going to be able to reach an Icy Wind, take their final shield, and then I swap out to save that Poliwrath in the back in case I have to clear a debuff. But it looks like we're going to be in a very good position because there's actually nothing that this Pidgeot can one-shot us with. I have a lot of health left on my Jellicent, and I had an energy lead, so I'm going to be able to spam these Surfs at this Pidgeot, and we should be able to get it really low despite being debuffed by the Feather Dance. Gonna save the shield for the Jellicent because I had a feeling they'd be able to get to another Shadow Ball. I didn't actually have to throw the Shadow Ball here, but I panicked and I tapped it. We CMP tied, and they won CMP because I have a very highly ranked Jellicent. And my opponent had no choice there but to go for the Brave Bird to take out the Jellicent, but we're able to bring back in Poliwrath and go for one counter to take the Pidgeot out, and because it's running Gust and not Wing Attack, we're able to take it out before they can take us out. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next set and the next match, we are going to see a Shadow Gliscor on the lead. Now, unfortunately, Gliscor is going to be very spammy. It is going to be running Night Slash. I am going to go ahead and let the first one go, and then I'll go for a Dragon Claw, fully expecting them to shield. I'm going to go ahead and shield the next Night Slash because I want to try to win the lead here. Now, my opponent immediately swaps into Ampharos, and I stay in and go for that Dragon Claw because I need to get this Ampharos low, because my backline is going to be entirely weak to this. And I bring in Poliwrath hoping that maybe because they save swap the Ampharos, it is going to be running Brutal Swing and Focus Blast. And it looks like I might have been right because they go for a Brutal Swing against our Poliwrath. So I'm able to take it out with an Icy Wind, and then my opponent brings Gliscor back into our Poliwrath, and it looks like they're going to be very weak to Poliwrath in the back because they use their final shield against this Poliwrath. So I had in mind that it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be either a Lowland Sandslash because that's double weak to Poliwrath, or it's going to be Aurorus. If it's Aurorus, that's going to be really good for me. It turns out that it is Aurorus, so they are ABA weak to water types. Very interesting. Their full team is weak to Swampert. A lot of these teams are not respecting Swampert in the Ultra League. But we're able to take that win anyways. GG's to our opponent. But moving on to the next match, we're going to see an Ampharos lead. Now, Ampharos leads are a little bit tricky, especially when they are non-shadow, because the non-shadow is going to be able to survive the Dragon Breaths if they shield the Dragon Claw. But in this case, they don't shield the Dragon Claw, so we're going to be able to take them out with our Dragonite. Of course, we have to double shield, unfortunately, and they're going to be 2 shields up. Now, they save their Ampharos, and they safe swap into Poliwrath. I'm going to go ahead and catch the Icy Wind on my Jellicent, saving my Dragonite in the back with a little bit of HP on it. And I'm going to try to leave this matchup with as much energy as I can on my Jellicent. Remember, wherever you can, maximize energy. In this case, Poliwrath can't do anything against us. All they can do is debuff us, unfortunately. So I build up as much energy as I can before taking the Poliwrath out with a Surf. I had to throw a move because it looked like they might have been able to reach another move. Now I blind swap out into my Poliwrath because I wanted to clear the debuff on my Jellicent. Now remember, I have a Shadow Ball stored and my opponent knows this, so they have to no shield this Icy Wind. That's good that we land the Icy Wind. We are able to debuff them as well. And here I had a feeling that my opponent would try to make a catch on the Ampharos, so I waited to throw the move. I'm going to go ahead and bait with a Surf here, take my opponent's final shield, and then I am able to reach a Shadow Ball and take this Trevenant out. GG's to our opponent. But on to the next match, we're going to see a Poliwrath on the lead. So what I like to do here is I like to throw a Dragon Claw, and then I will try to catch an Icy Wind on one of my back 2 Pokemon. In this case, I will swap the Poliwrath. So I'll catch the Icy Wind on my own Poliwrath because the Jellicent is the hard answer to Poliwrath. So you don't want to swap the hard answer for the lead. You always want to swap the soft answer. We managed to draw out an Ampharos, and I'm hoping this Ampharos is their Jellicent answer. They always have a Jellicent answer when they are running a Poliwrath. So hopefully we draw it out here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my Dragonite and take it out with a Dragon Claw. We had to shield a Brutal Swing because that is going to hurt our Dragonite, unfortunately. And my opponent has an Alolan Sandslash in the back. Okay, this is going to get a little bit tricky. Alolan Sandslash is actually really good against Jellicent, especially since this one is going to be running Shadow Claw, and it is a Shadow. So unfortunately, we have to take those drill runs, and I'm thinking of keeping my shield for my Dragonite. If in some miracle I am able to farm down their Poliwrath, I'll have energy for their Alolan Sandslash, and my opponent gives me a win condition here. They swap their Poliwrath into my Dragonite. I'm able to farm it down. They have no shields left, so I'll be able to superpower their Alolan Sandslash. My opponent top left's there. GG's to our opponent. But moving on, we're going to see another Shadow Gliscor lead. As we have established, this thing is very spammy. Gonna go ahead and no-shield the first Night Slash and shield the second Night Slash, but my opponent decides to swap out into Tapu Fini. This is good that we're seeing the Tapu Fini here. That means I can align my Jellicent to it, and my Poliwrath is not going to see it. Again, we're kind of ABA weak to Tapu Fini. If I see the Tapu Fini in the lead, actually, I swap my Poliwrath into it, because if I successfully shield the Moonblast, I'm actually able to beat Tapu Fini with Poliwrath. So don't underestimate the Poliwrath and Tapu Fini matchup. Anyways, we're able to align Jellicent to their Tapu Fini, and we're also able to take a shield from them. Gonna go ahead and bring back in Dragonite against their Gliscor, and I have so much energy on my Dragonite, so I had to shield that Night Slash so that I don't waste all that energy. And my opponent brings in a Tentacruel, so I'm gonna go for these two Dragon Claws. They no-shield both of them, which is really good for us. It puts the Tentacruel into the yellow and in a range where I recognize that I can fully counter this thing down and have two Icy Winds for the Gliscor in the back. Gonna go for that first Icy Wind, take their final shield, and actually they no shield because they know I have enough energy for two, so GG's to our opponent. And you guys, this final match is too good. You are going to see Dragonite put in so much work in this match. We're going to see a Poliwrath on the lead. As I said earlier, I like to catch the Icy Wind on my own Poliwrath. We managed to do that successfully again, and we draw out a Tapu Fini. This is completely fine. I'm going to go for a Scald, and we managed to get an attack debuff on the Tapu Fini. Now, I could have shielded the Moonblast and attempted to win Switch here, but because I know my opponent led Poliwrath, I actually don't need Switch that badly. Now here's the downside to losing Switch in this situation. I have to reveal my third Pokemon, which is Jellicent, and that's not ideal. You don't usually want to reveal what your third Pokemon is, because that gives your opponent an opportunity to strategize. And it looks like my opponent started thinking here that they could save the Tapu Fini because whatever they have in the back, maybe they can't use to counter the Dragonite. And we're going to see now that they have a Greedent in the back. Now I swap Dragonite immediately, and unfortunately I have to take this Body Slam. I still have two shields, and my opponent's Switch Timer is up, so they are able to bring in Tapu Fini here. Now what I have to do is go for a Dragon Claw, and hopefully I can fully Dragon Breath this Tapu Fini down, and these Mudshots are going to be doing absolutely nothing to Dragonite. All I have to do is bait to take their final shield, and then hope that I can reach a superpower here, and our 1 HP Dragonite survives, reaches the superpower, and takes that Greedent out. GG's to our opponent. And that gives us an incredible 5-0 to end this video off with. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you guys try this team. I think it's such a good team. And if you guys like my videos, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like on my videos. It helps me out a ton. If you have any suggestions, make sure to leave them in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!